Hey, TikTok, YouTube, all you internet folks, Clue Man here. I just want to talk with you guys a little bit. I understand there's a lot going on the news cycle about us going to war with Venezuela, and I know Trump's doing that in one um, way to distract us from the fact that he's all through the Epstein files, and that's clearly indicated by the fact that the Justice Department released are just completely redacted. So it makes perfect sense that he's trying to distract us from the real Epstein files that have yet to be released. But there's um, court orders saying they're supposed to be released. So hopefully at some point we'll get them. But I think he's distracting us from something much more sinister and important that I'm going to give you the clues about. And that is the fact that we are already at war. And if you don't believe we are, you are sleeping and need to wake up. We are in at least four wars that are evident and obvious to me. Number one, a class war. Okay. The filthy rich against the poor and middle class. The oligarch class runs our government right now, and they own our government right now. And we are totally at war with them. Number two, a race war. Okay. This racist, fascist administration hates anybody who's not white. Okay, so they are definitely at war against black and brown people, specifically brown people right now, but they're not going to do any favors for black people either. And they're against anybody that's a different ethnicity than white Christian nationalists. Okay, we're also in a gender war. This administration hates anything LGBTQIA plus, gay, trans, and women. They're against women having rights. If you don't believe me, look up all the laws that have been passed in red states since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Okay, they're all anti-women and anti-women's health laws in red states. So um, the next one is a holy war. We are in a holy war, and the way this shapes out, it's really um, not just biblical history, but it's also history. Okay, the Southern racists in the South, um, back before the Civil War, okay, they were Democrats. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. We all know that. This is the same argument that dipshit Republicans try to use all the time. Well, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Yeah, right. And then the parties switched in the 60s and 70s, 1960s and 70s. A bunch of freaking Dixie Democrats from the South didn't like the way things were going, didn't like the fact that black people were getting rights. They switched parties over to the Republican Party. The face of racism now is the Republican Party. Okay. So you got a bunch of racist Southern folks. They want the South to rise again. You know, ever since the end of the Civil War, we've had to fight back the Southern racists trying to rise again and take over our country. And they're using Christianity as a weapon. Then you've got the other white Christian nationalists, the Nazis. Well, there was also a movement of Nazis in our country in the 30s, believe it or not, that were very pro Adolf Hitler, and they were trying to get a foothold. Well, guess what? Now they've established a foothold. There's Nazis marching everywhere, right? So um, we have white Christian nationalist Nazis and white Christian nationalist Southern frickin' racists that um, we're fighting against in this holy war. But here's one little clincher where we might have a chink in their armor, and we can actually potentially exploit that division, and that is the Nazi version of the white Christian nationalist racists. They hate Jews. The evangelicals, the white Christian nationalist evangelicals, they love Israel and the Jews. So we can probably exploit that. But anyway, we are at war. Don't make any qualms about it. We definitely are at war on four fronts right now. And, you know, us veteran police officer, ex military guys, we know what to do to prepare for war. We're prepared, trust me. But a lot of civilians, a lot of people come into my comments and they're, what can I do? What can I do? Well, here's what you can do, because this might come to a point where it's war in the streets. So this is what you should be prepared to do. gather intel. Battles are won by information and intelligence. Take it from me, I was in intelligence. When people used to ask me, what did you do in the military? I said, I was in targeting. What does that mean? Well, I gathered intel to figure out what the targets were going to be. And then somebody else hit those targets. So, civilians, watch movies, read books about the French resistance during World War II, about the Polish resistance in World War II and the Warsaw Ghetto. Read about partisans, read about tradecraft, things like dead drops, bona fides, bona fides. Read about things like if you're going to set a meet with somebody and they know the bona fides ahead of time, then they know that if they show up with their hat cranked a little bit to the right, it means everything's cool. But if it's cranked a little bit to the left, it means that they've been compromised and you shouldn't meet with them. Get out of the AO, get out of the area of operation. Dead drops, where you don't communicate via your phone. You drop information somewhere and leave notice someplace else so that the person knows to go to the dead drop to get the information. Buy yourself a Faraday bag that your phone slips into so that when you're at a protest, this isn't being pinged off of towers. They're not able to access your phone and figure out who you are. That's how they found all the January 6th protesters, right? From their cell phones. That's how they went after them. And they're going to do the same thing with the resistance, because now they have police cars that have a little antenna and a ball on top of that antenna. That is a cell phone antenna, and they are literally pinging every cell phone within a radius, and it's a stronger tower than the towers. It will grab all your data, which means they have all your friends, everything. So stop going to protests with your cell phones. Take a digital camera to record what's going on, and then you have that on an SD card that you can upload into a computer and put on the internet. This is important. I'm not selling these. I don't monetize this app. But you know what? It's important to have a Faraday bag to block your signal, because if you have never watched Dateline, you'll realize that they track people's cell phones everywhere they go. Every tower you drive by, your phone pings off that tower. They can track you. They can listen in on your conversations even when your phone's off. So those are the things as a civilian you got to start thinking about, okay? We are at war. You need to start thinking like you're at war. You need to pretend you're in pre-World War II France or Poland or someplace that's getting invaded. Holland, Dutch, Danes, they knew what to do, man. They went underground. They started communicating with dead drops, doing what they needed to do to get the information to the people who could do something about it. And basically, they did targeting. So as a civilian, you can do targeting. Anyway, there's your clues. Going to try to end on a light note. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I hope you have a happy new year. Clue Man out.